The topic is Entrepreneurial Operating System and SJI. So, why SJI is connected to Entrepreneurial Operating System? Because we are following this kind of an operating system. It is already it's already running since I think last 3 years. So I just wanted to go over this since most of y'all have joined are new, and it is also a good opportunity for all of us to revisit this EOS and understand more about what actually it is. So to begin, what is an EOS? So it's like an operating system for a company. If I give an example, like each of the company has its own way how it functions, right? And whatever is good for them, they try to follow. But this entrepreneurial operating system is like a framework where it has set functions or set way to do certain things, and we will try to more understand about this system. So operating system is actually, it is a way, like if I given here there is more written that it is a way that people in the organization meet, like how meetings should be conducted, how we should solve problem, how we should plan, prioritize, follow certain processes, communicate, and even measure certain parameters, maybe even across the company, starting from the top to bottom at each team level. Then follow a particular structure. It could be a communication structure or a flow, or it could be a hierarchical structure. Okay. Then clarifying roles, like who will be doing what, who will be the leaders, who is going to manage. So these are the different functions of a company or a business that takes place. And EOS is actually providing some tools which will help business to become more optimal. That means it will become better than the way it was functioning before. Now, if you look at this image towards the left, like it points out three things. One, it says is people operating system. That means it is the people who are going to run these functions. So the functions will not run on its own, like whatever we spoke about, like meeting, solving problems, planning. So it will not run on its own unless people execute it. The second part is harnessing human energy. That means we have to use our own, what do you say, potential. You know, each one of us have our own inner potential. So we have to use our own inner potential or energy to, utilize or execute this operating system. And definitely the EOS has its own tools and principles. So next we'll move on to see what are these. So when we are talking about the EOS model, now at the core is the business, and there are different components which are around. So there are total 6 components: vision, data, process, traction, issues, and people. So all these functions are not independent functions or components, but they work in conjunction with each other. So that means they don't operate separately. That means you can't separate people with vision, because then this both needs to be connected. So we'll know more about it in the future slides. Now the goal is to, for all of us who are working in the company that follows this EOS model, is to strengthen each of these components. That means how we can best utilize the principles defined in each of these components. And definitely EOS execution or journey is not really easy, because we have our own way of doing things. Like each of us have our own thinking, and if we have to mold ourselves to what is being executed or told to be executed, it takes a little time for us to adapt to it. So that's why change is always difficult. Okay. Now few things I think we need to keep in mind. Now when we are when the EOS system or a model is getting executed, So we have to, one is challenge ourselves. That means, as I said before, we have to change the way we are thinking about certain execution process, right? So we need to challenge ourselves to reframe our thinking or our mindset. Then the other people who are working around you come into picture, your manager, your team, as well as the company. So everything is a combined effort. Uh, so the challenge is for everybody, okay? And we have to challenge each other. Now, the best way to do is to have an open and honest communication. That means we be very clear about how we are going to explain that, okay, this is the EOS framework or what it talks about, and this is how we have to follow. So if we see anybody, not following certain things, now this is not the responsibility of just one particular team. If I'm talking about, okay, because the company is follow has decided to follow EOS model, it doesn't mean that it is only the responsibility of the management or the leadership team to execute this or be part of it, but it is the responsibility of the all the employees, and full participation is needed from all the employees if this EOS model has to be successful. Okay, now let's go to each of these components. So the first one is vision. So let's start with an example. So if we see this picture, okay, and let us assume each of these rows are vehicles which are moving on the road. What will happen? Accident. Now let's change the perspective. So each of this is each one of us. That means each of us are going in different directions. That means we are not following one particular way. We are, doing the way we think is right. Okay. So for this, we should move in this direction. That means all of us should move in one direction if we need to make the company successful. So vision is something similar to that. So it is something which aligns everyone towards a common goal of the company. Okay, and it is all about getting everyone on the same page, and with where we are going and how we plan to get there. Now when we are talking about vision, here it talks about 8 questions which are shared by all. So I just want to share what are those 8 questions. Uh, so there are few aspects which is part of the vision. One is core values, that means who we are, core focus, what you are, 10-year target, the marketing strategy, that is which potential customers you are targeting with that message. Then what is a 3-year picture? That means what we are planning to do after 3 years. What is the next 1 year plan? What are the rocks? Rocks means they are objectives or OKRs or goals which is set for a quarter, that is 90 days. And issues is what will stop you to get there faster. That means what are the obstacles that we need to take care. Okay, so these are the 8 questions that is part of the vision. So I will not go to details of this, but I will recommend something which you all should go through. So we also have defined a similar vision, which is there in the link over here. I put the link. So this is the SJ Vision 2030, 2020, 2030. So you all can go to this vision. It is accessible to all. Now, when we talk about a vision, it is not something that will remain fixed. So something that is set. Let's say we talked about 10-year goal, right? Now there is something which we have envisioned for 10 years. It will not remain fixed always, because as the time changes, there are chances that we will amend it. Okay, so when we talk about certain aspects of the vision, it doesn't remain fixed for that particular period of time, but it changes depending on how the situation is around. Now AI is suddenly the boom, right? So the AI would be maybe something which will be included as a part of the vision, okay, for the future. So how we could adopt it. Now, when it comes to the vision part, I think one of us, as I mentioned, if we go, all of us go in this direction, then we will not be successful. To move in this direction, that means all moving together, all of us should develop a mindset of company first. That means what is beneficial for the company, I must be able to do that. Okay. So I just put a small example over here. Like to create software solution that significantly reduce clients' operating costs, the entire team from CEO to intern must understand and work towards this vision. That means if we have to deliver a very good product, okay, that means all of us together have to work in the same direction. So it doesn't become just a responsibility of like the developers to do good coding, but it also involves the management team responsible for that particular team, the QA team members, the business development team. So all of us should work together to move in that direction. Okay. So next we'll come to people. People. So now we spoke about vision. Now if we have to get that vision executed, somebody should execute it. So it is the people who are executing it. So we need to become great people. Now great people means not that we should become 100% perfect. None of us are 100% perfect, right? So we all have our plus and minus. So the only thing what we need to understand over here is that we need to surround ourselves with great people who are aligned with the vision of the company. That means who understands the vision of the company, who can, let's say, ask some good questions why this vision is there. Then they understand more about it, and then the execution takes place. So it is when we are talking about people, it is people who are from top to the bottom. That means no one is excluded from it, right? And because we need to execute the vision, we need great people. Now, here it talks about the accountability chart. Now, to explain, when a job is posted by a company, they usually post like, okay, these are the minimum prerequisites. This is what the core responsibility is, and all these things, right? That is just a job description. Now, that is just for the people to understand what kind of a job it's going to be, and then come to for an interview and then get onboarded, right? Now, accountability chart is something that at my job, what am I supposed to do? Okay, what I am responsible for. Responsible for means, let's say I'm part of a project. So within that part of that project, what I'm supposed to do. Let's say if I talk about myself as a manager, right? I need to, like, my responsibility is I need to conduct regular one-on-one with my team member. This is one part of my accountability chart. I have to attend all the leadership meetings and participate actively. Whatever AIs are assigned to me, I need to make sure that I execute them. Or certain additional responsibilities which I have, like I'm manager even for one of the development pods, so I have certain responsibilities on those pods. Like, okay, if there are any issues related to the pod, whether it is client or project, I need to guide them. So these are separate from what actually a job description is. That means if I need to execute my work in the most efficient manner, what are the different things that I need to do, right? So that is the accountability chart. Now, this accountability chart is mandatory, or everyone should have it. So it says, okay, who does what kind of work, and it helps to better communicate and collaborate. Now let's say one of you all don't know, you all have an issue, like while you are doing some work, you don't know whom to go to. Okay, then it is a concern, right? You may, like, whether you should approach a TL, whether you should approach a project coordinator, whether you should approach a manager or assistant manager, you are not aware. So when you have this accountability chart, then okay, this person handles this kind of responsibility, then okay, I have to go to this person. So that is that accountability chart. So it helps to communicate and collaborate and work together, right? Now, the next part of the people component is the people analyzer. So So let's relate this little bit with the accountability chart. So we have certain, tasks to do. Let us say out of within the accountability chart, let's say it has 20 line items which I have to do, but there may be five or six which are really core, which I need to, do my best. Okay. And so the people analyzer will actually help to analyze whether I'm doing these five or six things right. So if you see this picture over here, you have the names of the people, and you have these, maybe some, what do you call it? You can call it KPIs also, or some part of the accountability chart, like whether this person is really, now in this context, humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing. So here it is marked like whether that person is doing right or wrong. So here it helps analyze whether that person is on the doing whatever he's supposed to do, he or she is doing things right. Then the discussion happens, the feedback discussion happens, and then the review, not review process, then further analyzing happens. So this analyzing can be done on a monthly basis to see whether certain people are doing certain things right or wrong. So this is one of the aspects which is suggested by the analyzer. Now, how we can actually contribute to this? So the HR admin, regularly sends this feedback request, right, to write about the feedback. So I think we must take that initiative to fill them, write something. So we know, like even the manager knows when they are doing one-on-one with this person, okay, there is certain concern about this person, it needs to be discussed. So the manager would explain like how that person can become better. It's not that that person will be reprimanded because this negative feedback is come. As I said before, nobody is 100% perfect, right? So we must participate in this Keka praise feedback, okay, into Keka. So this is all about the people component. Now let's move to data. Um, let's take an example of sports, let's say cricket or football. Okay, you're watching. Okay, you're just watching the people playing on the ground. There is no analysis, right? They're just playing around. Now, if you want to really know what is happening in that game, like somebody is losing or winning, okay, if you talk about cricket, what is the required run rate, how many overs are left, you need some kind of data, right? Otherwise, you can't make any decision. Like even the captain of that team cannot make a decision what strategy I should, perform. So same thing is with the company or a business. So data collection again is important over here. So let's say like how many projects in a pod is running, how many are within budget, how many are outside of budget, or whether let's say you are planning a sprint. So within the sprint, you have set of tasks. Now, how many tasks are completed within that sprint and how many are pending? So all these analyses are important within a business. Then only we can make better decisions, like how we can overcome the issues that we have faced. So here there are two parts to it. One is scorecard and measurables. So scorecard is a visual board where you see the score in terms of graphs, okay, and measurables are what we just spoke about, like how many projects over budget, or what is the billable percentage individually or collectively, okay, all those things. So it helps us to understand whether we are on track or we are off track. So if we are off track, then we discuss about, okay, what was the issue and how can we solve it. So in this process, I feel all the employees must have their own key metrics. That means they must try to measure some component, maybe one or two, of their own work, where it helps to understand whether we are doing it right or wrong. Let's say a simplest thing would be like you are adding a skill to your existing profile, right? So let's say you'll plan to learn Next.js. Now you will have certain topics to cover, right? So let's say 5 topics. Now you have to measure, okay, how much I have done in certain period of time. So when you measure yourself, then you know whether you're on track or off track, or whether you'll finish it within the quarter or no. So this kind of analysis is important. So each company, at company level or at leadership level, there are separate analysis. Team level, it could be separate. So here we have in this week meeting, we have certain dashboards which we review, but it is common for most of the teams. But the best way would be like each team having their own set of parameters how they will measure, right? So QA may have certain set of parameters which they can measure, which is little different from a development team. Like a leadership team would have a different set of parameters which they can measure. So so this is the thing. So it will give more clarity, focus, and accountability. Accountability in terms of, let's say I'm responsible for one of the metrics and it is not moving in the right direction. That means I'm not making enough progress. So I will be made accountable, like what was the problem and how can I make it, how can I improve it, right? So that's the accountability part. Now let's come to the most important one, issues. So to give an example, issues like there are issues between husband, wife, girlfriends, boyfriends. With similarly, you have issues within the company as well, and no business can run without certain issues. Issues could be anything, like let's say what we spoke about in the previous slide, data, right? The metrics are not moving, consistently. There is no progress. So this is an issue. So it needs to be addressed. Why it is not moving? Okay. So so here the goal of this component is to become great at solving problems throughout the organization. So how can we solve the issue rather than just talking about it? That is the focus. So talking in the right, or bringing the issue in the right forum, and then discussing it. Now one of the things, two components it has. One is issues list and one is IDS. So issues list is something which we have been practicing for quite some time, and each team on a weekly basis, like they can report any kind of issue which is happening within the team, which is being recorded in the Google Sheet, and there is a timeline, for each of the issue when it should get resolved. And the assistant manager responsible for that team is supposed to make a comment like what was done to resolve that issue. Okay. So, and this is reviewed every week. So that is one part. Now, the second part is IDS. So once we have reported an issue or identified an issue, we cannot just leave it like that to like somebody who is above our own hierarchy to get it solved. The best way is to discuss it within the team. Like, okay, this is an issue. Like everybody discusses it. Everyone comes up with different kinds of solution, and the best solution that works well for the team and the company should be executed. Okay, so that is the solving part of it. So here, as I mentioned before, issues is not one person's responsibility; it is everyone's responsibility. So let's say in a QA team there is an issue, it doesn't become responsibility of Suyog or Paresh alone to solve it. The entire team is responsible to solve it. So here, just an example. So when a coding issue or a client concern arises or a project is failing behind schedule, it shouldn't be up to the certain people to solve it. All team members involved should identify issues and participate in finding solutions. So unless and until it is raised, or I would put it like this, that if we are facing any issue it is no point that we talk about this issue some person in another department or just as a casual conversation. It should be brought in the right forum, and only when it is brought to the right forum and recorded, it will get solved. Okay, so that right forum is something which we should be comfortable to share any issues or openly share issues. Okay. The next one is process. So when we are talking about the initial slide, like it is a way of, executing certain, the way a company functions. So this component is almost related to it, where it helps to systemize the business by identifying and documenting the core processes, so that everybody does certain process in the same way. Like, not like I will follow my way and the other person will think, okay, I will do it my way, not that way. So here it consists of two disciplines. That means all processes must be documented and they must be followed by everyone. And everyone plays a vital role in refining the process. When I say refining the process, means okay, there is a process which is defined, right, or documented. Now, while we are actually doing the work, we see that okay, this particular process is not working that efficiently. Maybe we should try some other another way which we can do. So when somebody identifies this, now if we are talking about, okay, let the management decide, okay, whether this process, like the management will never know whether this process is working fine or no, unless and until a major issue happens. But rather than waiting for the top people to understand it, I think the best way to identify issues of process is at the ground level. That means people who are actually executing it. So when people are actually executing that process and they find issues, the best way is to report in a weekly meeting. Whichever weekly meeting, you can make it as a part of the issues list, that this process is not working right, we need to amend it. So when it is discussed over there, then slowly it comes to the leadership meeting, maybe whoever is responsible. If it is development related, then it will go to tech committee, then they will review it, and then they will make changes to the process, right? So here, what I wanted to clarify is that just because some process is there, don't try to follow it blindly. Try to think like these two questions. What are you doing? What are you doing that is unnecessary? Is there something you feel that I'm doing unnecessarily certain things? Or what is the best and the most efficient way to do your job? So when we ask these questions to ourselves, then this refining of the process will happen automatically. Okay. And everyone's feedback on what works well and what doesn't is necessary for continuous improvement. Now, continuous improvement is something which we have to always follow, right? So, as I said before, just because the process is there doesn't mean it is fixed, or just because the vision is there doesn't mean it is fixed. Continuous improvement will happen. Okay, so all the processes are in this drive, so you all can refer. And I think we are also working on a knowledge base where soon you all will have access to it. So department wise, you all will have access to those process. Okay. Now the last one is traction. So what traction actually means is something you can actually get hold of or you can get a grip of, right? So while all these other five components are there, now if we need to execute them properly, then we need to have some hold on it. That means we need to follow a particular discipline, or each one of us need to be accountable for following that particular kind of framework or process. So this is more about traction, is more about execution, like how to get things done, and who is going to do what, and then do it. Now, there are few disciplines into it which I want to share. So, one of the examples on Like traction would be, we just couldn't finish the project. It went on, and we didn't have any traction. That means we didn't have any hold on it. That means we didn't review or we didn't address the issues that were, that happened, or we didn't follow certain processes. So if you look at this statement, it connects to some of the components which are there, right? Issues are not addressed, process is not followed. Maybe the right person who didn't have enough experience on this project was, put on it. So that person did a bad job. So all these things, see, this one statement gets related to a lot of things, right? So, okay, let's get back to those disciplines. So here rocks. So rocks here indicate 90-day goals. So, mm, so every quarter, um, like at the leadership level, we have an offsite meeting, which will happen now in the second week of December. So in those 2 days, we review the entire year, the entire quarter, what went well, what went wrong, and we define new uh, goals, right? So every quarter, we set a new set of goals. Now, this is not just at the company level, this also happens at the team level. And even at the individual level, you can set your own goal, like, like improving your own skill set, okay, those things. Now, this is all like a cascading effect. So you have certain goals set at the company level, then you have some related goals set at the team level. Now, not necessary that you will set something which is directly coinciding with the company goal. At company goal, we may set three OKRs, objectives and key results. The team can align itself to one of them, which is most significant to them, or where they can make maximum effect on, and then they can set individual team goals after the internal discussion. So these goals are measured on a workboard. So we have a separate OKR, and everybody is given some certain key results, which they are responsible for, updating. And every week it is being reviewed. Then let's talk about the meeting pulse. So when we are talking about the meeting pulse, it's about having meaningful meetings. Meaningful meeting means, in most of the cases, we may find ourselves in a situation where we just get a ping on Slack saying, okay, let's have a meeting. There is no agenda set, there is no time defined, and we just go and attend that meeting. There could be two people, three people, maybe even 10 people. Now it is a waste of time and waste of energy of all these people. So when we are talking about the meeting pulse, meaningful meetings means it should have a well defined agenda. So even if somebody buzzes you and asks for a meeting, you can ask, okay, what is the agenda, what are we discussing, and how long it will take. So this is something which we need to define. Then we can have a meaningful discussions. Okay. Then weekly level 10 meeting. Now weekly level 10 meeting coincides to the weekly WIG meeting. Okay, where you check, okay, whatever goals you have set, uh, whether everybody is on track. Everybody reports that, okay, how much I have progressed in the last week, and what I'm going to do in the next week, following week. Okay. It could also be discussion of issues list, which we spoke about earlier. Okay. And it could also be defined like some another metrics which you all want to discuss about, could be like maybe relating to some project. Okay, you all can discuss. So these are these weekly level 10 meetings. So here, if rocks are off track, rocks means if your quarterly goals are off track, then you have to use IDS. What is IDS? Anybody remembers? Yeah. What is the full form of? Anybody remembers?
Yes, I remember.
Yes.
Identify, decision, and solve.
Yeah. Discuss and solve.
Discuss and solve. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So this is what we need to do. So if something is off track or if something is not going right, then we need to follow the IDS method. Okay. So let's come to the conclusion part. So why EOS? Okay. So, just like we are strengthening our whole body, right? So even our body has different components, right? So we need to strengthen different parts of our body. So like, how do we strengthen it? Maybe we go for gym or do yoga or something like that, and do, or we have some healthy food, right? So this just like this only, we need to focus on strengthening all these components, collaborate and participate, and do it. So without that, this six components will not become one strong organization. Where attention goes, energy flows. So when I was talking about like three things which are part of EOS, that is people, our individual potential, and the tools, right? So all these three things go hand in hand and they need to go together. So only when all three of them go together, then the energy will flow in the same direction. And next part is just like yoga, EOS is a daily practice. It's not that we have to practice EOS on one particular day of the week, but EOS, while we are doing our work, we are actually executing EOS. And like many other things, it takes time and effort. So we've been doing this for last 3 years, but things are like, okay, certain places we may do it, certain places we may not do it. So here, since now all of us know about it, so we need to practice it and be consistent and live with it. Okay. So change doesn't happen overnight. So we may have a lot of expectation that, okay, it took 3 years and still we are not perfect. We are not doing EOS. No, but as I said before, if all of us don't participate in the EOS model, then this is not going to be successful. It is like that uh, two circles which I showed you. Everybody moving in different direction and everybody moving in one direction. Okay. Now, how you all can start? Now, I have just given the tip of the iceberg about what EOS is. So here, since SJ Innovation runs on EOS, we all need to know more about it. Okay. And this is a small book which is there. It is available in PDF form as well. Okay. So I recommend everyone to read it, and everyone must read it. It is written in very simple language, and you all will be able to understand. There are a lot of examples in this. So please read this book, because unless and until you read how this EOS works, um, like in more, I should say, in a more elaborate form. If you don't understand it, then it will not help. So this PDC, which was just for a few minutes, will not help us understand what exactly EOS is all about. Okay, and there are many companies who are running it, so we have to make sure that we understand more about it and then follow. Okay. So thank you everyone for patiently listening.